Hare Krishna, everyone. Happy Gita Jayanti. Welcome to our Gita Jayanti program. Today we are observing the auspicious day when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna over 5,000 years ago. So we will be reading through all 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita today, and we'll be altering between Sanskrit and English for each chapter. There will be a short break midway through. So after that, after all the verses are done, we're going to honor Ekadasi Prasadam, followed by 8 p.m. Arti and Kirtan. So please join in as we read through all the verses. You can follow along with the screen at the front of the temple room, or you can have it on your phone. If not, you can also donate and grab a Bhagavad Gita from one of the tables outside and one in the temple room. And then you can take that Bhagavad Gita home with you. Alrighty, so let's get started. Hare Krishna.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Shri Paramatmane Namaha Ata Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ata Pratamodhyayaha Arjuna Vishada Yoga Dhritarashtra Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samavetayutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudam Duryodanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Sishyena Dhimata Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhima Juna Samayudhi Yuyudano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharata Drishtaketuschekitana Kashirajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bojascha Shaibhyascha Narapungavaha Yuda Manyuscha Vikranta Uttamaujascha Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadeyascha Sarva Eva Maharataha Asmakam Tum Vishishtaye Tani Bodha Dvijottama Nayaka Mama Sainyasya Samnyartam Tan Bravimite Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitim Jayaha Ashvattama Vikarnascha Saumadattistataivacha Anye cha Bhavashura Madarte Tyakta Jivita Nana Shastra Praharana Sarve Yuddha Visharadaha Aparyatam Tadasmakam Balam Bhishma Birakshitam Paryaptam Tvaidam Yetesham Balam Bhishma Birakshitam Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yata bhagam avastita Bhishmam eva birakshantu bhavantas sarva eva hi Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha pitamaha Simhanadam vinodyochai shankam dadmau pratapavan Tatas shankascha beryascha panavanaka gomukaha Sahasaivaabhyahanyanta sashabdastu bhavat Tatashvetairhayeryukte mahati syandane stitau Madhava pandavaschaiva divyau shankau pradatmatuhu Panchajanyam hrishikesho devadattam dhananjayaha Paundram dadmau mahashankam bhima karma vrikodaraha Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishtaraha Nakula Sahadevascha Sugosho Mani Pushpakau Kasyascha Parameshwasa Shikandi Cha Maharataha Drishtadhyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvasha Prithvipate सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः शङ्कान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक् सघोषोदार्तराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यदारयत् नभश्च पृथिवीं चैव तुमुलोऽभ्यनुनादै अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा तार्धराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुर्वुद्यम्य पाण्डवः ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम् इदमाह महीपते अर्जुन उवाच सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापयमेच्युत यावदेतान् निरीक्षेऽहं योद्धुकामान् अवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे योत्स्यमानान् अवेक्षेऽहं ययेते अत्र समागताः दार्धराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर्युद्धे प्रियचिकीर्षवः सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्तो ऋषिकेशो गुडाकेशेन भारत सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये स्थापयित्वा रथोत्तमम् भीष्मद्रोणप्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्यैतान् समवेतान् कुरूनिति तत्र पश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थ पितृनत पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा स्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव सेनयोरुभयोरपि तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेय सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविष्टो विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत् अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेमं स्वजनं कृष्ण युयुत्सुं समुपस्थितं सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गाण्डीवं स्रंसते हस्तात् त्वक्चैव परिदह्यते न च शक्नोमि अवस्थातुं भ्रमतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखानि च किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा येषामर्थे काङ्क्षितं नो राज्यं भोगा सुखानि च तयि मे अवस्थिता युद्धे प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च आचार्य पितरः पुत्रास्तथैव च पितामहाः मातुला श्वशुरा पौत्रा शाला सम्बन्धिनस्तथा एतान् न हन्तुमिच्छामि ज्ञतोऽपि मधुसूदन अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य हेतो किं नु मही कृते निहत्य दार्धराष्ट्रान्न का प्रीतिः स्यात् जनार्दन पापं येवाश्रयेदस्मान् हत्वैतानाततायिनः तस्मान्नार्हा वयं हन्तुं तार्तराष्ट्रान् सबान्धवान् स्वजनं हि कथं हत्वा सुखिनः स्याम माधव यदि अपि एतेन पश्यन्ति लोभोपहत चेतस कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोहे च पातकं कथं न ज्ञेयमस्माभिः पापादस्मान् निवर्तितुं कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं प्रपश्यद्भिर्जनार्दन कुलक्षये प्रणश्यन्ति कुलधर्मा सनातनः धर्मे नष्टे कुलं कृत्स्नम् अधर्मोऽभिभवति युत अधर्माभिभवात् कृष्ण प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः स्त्रीषु दुष्टासु वार्ष्णेयज्जायते वर्णसङ्करः शङ्करो नरकायैव कुलज्ञानं कुलस्य च पतन्ति पितरो येषां लुप्तो पिण्डोदक्रिया दोषैर्येतैः कुलज्ञानं वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्स्याद्यन्ते जातिधर्मा कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः उत्सन्नकुलधर्माणां मनुष्याणां जनार्दन नरके नियतं वासो भवतीति अनुशुश्रुम अहो बतमः पापं कर्तुं व्यवसिता वयं यद्राज्यसुखलोभेन हन्तुं स्वजनमुद्यताः यदि माम अप्रतीकारम अशस्त्रम शस्त्रपाणयः तार्तराष्ट्रारणे हन्युस्तन्मे क्षेमतरं भवेत्। संजय उवाच एवमुक्त्वार्जुनः सङ्ख्ये रथोपस्थौपाविशत् विसृज्य ससरं चापं शोकसंविघ्नमानसः। ॐ तत्सदिति। श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे अर्जुनविषादयोगो नाम प्रथमोऽध्यायः।
Chapter 2, Contents of the Gita summarized. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart, and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we killed the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. O descendant of Bharata, at that time Krishna, smiling, in the midst of both the armies, spoke the following words to the grief-stricken Arjuna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress, and is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life is always born and dies forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties, and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you?
O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so, you shall never incur sin. Thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you will free yourself from the bondage of works. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on the path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and those who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of work are misers. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions, even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is art of all work. By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of those whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as a tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. The embodied soul, made restricted from sense enjoyment through the taste for sense object, remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a mind of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. But a person free from all attachment and aversion, and is able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can neither have transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from the objects is certainly of steady intelligence. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective sage. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, that enter the rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is usually still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense for proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. That is why the spiritual life and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is situated, even in the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God.
Chapter 3, text 1. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhi janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava vyamisrene vakyena buddhi mohayasi vame tad Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Vividanishta Pura Prokta Maya Naga Jnana Yogena Na Karmanam Anarambhan Naishkaryam Purushosnute Na Cha Sanyasana Deva Siddhim Samadhigacchati Nahi kaschid kranam api jatu tishtati akarmakrit karyate hi avasakarna sarva prakriti jaygune karmendriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyartan vimudatma mityachara sauchyate yasti vindriyani manasa Niyamyarabhate Arjuna Karmendriye Karma Yogam Asakta Sa Vishishyate Niyatam Kuru Karmatvam Karma Gyayo Hi Akarmana Sharira Yatra Chate Na Prasidjed Akarmana Yagnartat Karmano Anyatra Loko yam karma bandana tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara sahajagya prajasvistva puvo vacha prajapati anena prasavisyadvam eshavo asishta kamaduk devan bhavayatanena Tadeva bhavayantu va parasparam bhavayanta Shreya param avapsyata Istan bhoga hi vo deva dasyante yagna bhavita Te dattan aparadha vaibhyo yo bhungte stena evasa Yagna shista shanto Muchante sarva kilbise Bhunjate te agam papa Ye pachami atmakaranan Annad bhavanti bhutani Parjanyadanna sambhava Yagnad bhavanti parjanyo Yagna karma samudbhava Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi Brahmaskara samudbhavan Tasmat sarvagatam brahma Nityam yagne pratistitam Evam pravartitam chakram Nanuvartayatyaya Agayur indriya ramo Mogam partha sajivati Yastiv atmarati evasyad Atma triptascha manava Atmani eva cha santusta Tasya karyam na vidyate नैव तस्या कृतेनार्थो न कृतेनः कश्चन न चास्या सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिद् अर्थव्यपाश्रया तस्मादसक्तः सततं कार्यं कर्म समाचरम् असक्तो हि आचरन् कर्म परम् आप्नोति पुरुषः कर्मणैव हि संसिद्धिम् आस्थिता जनकादया लोकसङ्ग्रहमिवापि सम्पश्यं कर्तुमर्हसि यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठस्तत्तदेव तरो जनां स यत्प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते न मे पार्थस्ति कर्तव्यं त्रिषु लोकेषु किञ्चन नानवाप्तम् अवाप्तव्यं वर्त एव च कर्मणि यदि हि अहं न वर्तेयं जातु कर्माणि अतन्द्रिता मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः उत्सिद्यो इमे लोका न कुर्यं कर्म चेदहं सङ्कस्य च सप्तस्यान् उपहन्यम् इमा प्रजा सक्तकर्माणि अविद्वांसो यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद्विद्वांस्तथा सक्ताश्चिक्षुर्लोकसङ्ग्रहम् न बुद्धिभेदं जनते अज्ञानं कर्मसङ्गिनां जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्ता समाचरा प्रकृति क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहङ्कारविमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्मविभागयो गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्त मत्वा न सज्जते प्रकृते ते गुणकर्मसु तान् अकृष्णविदो मन्दान् कृष्णविन्ना विचालयेत् मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निरासे निर्मनो भूत्वा युद्धस्व विगताज्वरा ये मे मतम् इदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवा श्रद्धवानन्तो अनुष्यन्तो मुच्यन्ते ते अपि कर्मभिः ये एतद् अभ्यस्युषन्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढास्तान् विद्धि नास्ताम् अचेतसा सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्य प्रकृते ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रह किं करिष्यति इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयो न वशमाचेत् तो हि अस्य परिवस्थितौ परादस्मासु अनुष्ठितान् स्वधर्मानिदं श्रेया परो धर्म प्रवासः श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपनाथ की जय श्री जगन्नाथ सुब्रह्मण्य बलराम की जय अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनिच्छानपि वार्ष्णेय बलाद् एव नियोजिता श्रीभगवानुवाच काम एष क्रोध एष रजोगुणसमुद्भवा महासानो महापाप्मा विद्धि येनम् इह वैरिणम् धूमेन विद्यते वानिर्यथा दर्शो मलेन च यतो लोभेन वर्तो गर्भास् tata tenedamavritam. Avritam jnanam itena jnanino nityavairinam kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena lena cha. Indriyani manobuddhir asyadistanamuchyate ete vimohayati sa jnanam avritya dehinam. Tasmatvam indriyanadam niyamya bharatarsava papmanam prajahinam jnana vijnana nashanam. Indriyani paranahur indriyebhya param mana manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu sam. Evam buddhe param buddhva samstyabhyatmanam atmanam jahi shastrum manavahom kamarupam durasadam.
Chapter 4. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? The personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. All the liberated souls in ancient times acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore you should perform your duty, following in their footsteps. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is. knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned by the fire of perfect knowledge. Abandoning all attachment to the activities of his activities, never satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Others, who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses, offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Still others, who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and, having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme material atmosphere. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet, or in this life. What then of the next? All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed